My first entrepreneurial venture was a vineyard and winery called Sugarleaf Vineyards that I founded when I was 19 years old. Founded it and created it in the Monticello area of Virginia. I spent 8 years marketing, branding, and creating a super successful business. At the beginning of 2011, I decided to start luxury market branding and pretty much came up with a list of the things that I loved most about running and creating the winery, which was the marketing, the branding, the business development, and creating strategic partnerships, boosting revenue, building an amazing team. And I decided to bring those skills to other businesses as services within my marketing company. And so how did I first end up in the wine business? I think the short answer and the best answer is really that it was a passion project. It was a project out of my heart, something that I was really passionate about, that I loved, that I spent a lot of time researching and understanding, and it was something that I was really eager to make sure that I could do. And once I was able to see that I could do that and accomplish that, I was kind of ready to move on to something else after 8 years. So for me, I was really able to hone in on what my strengths were based on my interest and what my passions were based on knowing myself. So for me, when I went to go create luxury market branding at the very beginning of 2011, I made a list of the things that I loved most about being responsible and my duties and my responsibilities really at my first company. And those were the marketing, the branding, the business development, creating strategic partnerships, really combined with my formal education in marketing and international trade. So I have a bachelor's of science in international trade and marketing. And I've always loved that field. I've always loved understanding what motivates people to make a purchase, what motivates them to patronize your business, what motivates them to be interested in your product or your company or yourself. And it was a big deal to really hone in on that with the winery, because you have to understand what makes people come back and what makes them connect with your business in the first place. And so I went back and actually made a list of the things that I loved most about my first company, and then I made a big list of the things that I really could stand to do without. Which was a lot of the administrative stuff and a lot of the legal stuff and the accounting stuff. So that's pretty much how I kind of arrived at my decision of what my company was going to be and what the services were that I was going to offer to other people. And a good amount of my expertise was purely a result of trial and error and being a business person in the everyday world, in the field, seeing the fruits of my labor be super successful and bring people tons of happiness and joy, and a lot of it was also what I learned in school and what I'd also learned from amazing mentors that have helped me and guided me along the way. I think I get this question a lot, and I was actually recently really honored to have the opportunity to judge the NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship Business Plan Competition in New York City, and I was asked this question by a lot of young, aspiring entrepreneurs with amazing talents, maybe in need of direction, maybe in need of motivation. And I think that understanding what your core competencies are and being able to not be afraid to ask other people who are, experts or, more experienced in an area where is not your strength is probably the best thing that I can ever advise an entrepreneur to do. Oftentimes I find that entrepreneurs want to be able to do it all, and we all want to do it all, entrepreneur or not. But I think it's really important that you can honestly be real with yourself and say, you know what, I'm good at this and I'm not good at that. And find someone who's good at that and let them compliment you. Bring them on to your team and build up, because even if you were good at everything, you're going to burn out. So you need a partner, you need a team. So I would really advise people to be true to themselves and know what they're good at, hone in on those qualities, and I always say work your core competencies and crush it. It's something I always tell everyone. So I think that's my best piece of advice. I think the most difficult thing that I encountered with starting my first business is that I was becoming a trailblazer for many reasons, some of which involved race and some of which didn't. By itself, I was the youngest self-made winery owner in the country. On top of that, it was the first Black-owned winery ever on the East Coast and one of less than 10 in the country, in an area where there weren't many African Americans even to start with. There's not a lot of diversity even in that area of Virginia and that area of the country. So I think that a lot of my a lot of the hurdles, I'll call them, was having to really prove myself. And I've always been a pretty self-assured person about the things that I felt confident about. And I felt very confident about creating my business and coming into the market. And I was not necessarily prepared for having to really have to go the extra mile to A, prove myself because of my age, and B, earn the respect of my colleagues just because we looked a little different. So, it's something that I know people get very frustrated about. Minorities in this day and age get very frustrated about having to prove yourself. I think everyone has to prove themselves, regardless of what your color is. But that was probably the hardest thing for me, was that I was working really hard to build an amazing business, but I was also working equally, if not harder, to prove my worthiness in the industry. And as a result, I gained the respect of my colleagues and of everyone in my industry, and it paid off tenfold. But it was another job on the plate for sure. No, you know what? I don't think I have any regrets. I really don't. I think everything that I've done, everything that I've learned, I'm really grateful to have experienced, and it shaped me as either a professional or an individual. So I appreciate all of my experiences for that reason. I think at luxury market branding, I think the biggest struggle is helping other entrepreneurs with amazing brands that have amazing potential think outside of the box. I think that's hard for entrepreneurs anyway. But now that I'm bringing my services to companies as, my own business, but yet I have the lens of an entrepreneur, I'm sitting there saying to them, almost as a friend sometimes, you can't necessarily build your business just for yourself. You have to really build your business for your market. And I think that it takes time for business owners who have spent a lot of time kind of raising their businesses and nurturing them and hand-holding them to understand and to let go a little bit, to really put their product on the market. And we deal with consumer goods, so to put their product on the market for the market and not necessarily for themselves. So I think the hardest thing is telling other people that all will be okay, telling my clients everything will be okay, but we've got to really reach your customer. And that doesn't always mean speaking in the language that so-and-so says you should. I mean, for me at luxury market branding, I think it's extremely important that companies build an identity and that they build a consistent message. I'm big on consistency and I'm big on detail. And I think it's really important that businesses create, trust within a community, because in this market, you're competing with so much. You're competing with discounts. You're competing with companies that maybe want to, earn brand loyalty versus brand awareness versus just sales. And being true to whatever your company's mission is and making sure that your messages across all platforms and all media channels stay true to that message is something that I really drive home at luxury market branding. I want customers to know that they can always rely on the companies that I help to market and help to build. And that in turn that creates trust, and in turn that creates word of mouth marketing and gives that company more equity in the marketplace. I think that for me, when I advise any company on what their marketing budget should be for what they want to accomplish, it really honestly depends on that company's goals. I hear amazing ideas every day, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to propose what I think should be the plan. I'll propose a plan based on what you tell me you're willing and capable of doing. So it really depends on the company. It depends on if it's a consumer goods, are you trying to create sales, or are you trying to build awareness? Are we talking about a community and a product that we want to build awareness for, and in turn revenue will eventually come? Or are we talking about getting a product in the hands of consumers and getting people to know it and understand it and touch it and feel it? So it really depends on A, the type of product, and B, the goals of the company. So I can't really probably answer that question in a really straightforward way. I can only say that it depends on the goals, and it depends on what your benchmarks are and where you want to be. And if where you want to be in a year is at X revenue, there's a figure, and that figure is probably somewhere between 10 to 25% of what you want your revenue to be to establish your brand in the market. So in terms of setting goals, I do this every day with my clients, and I believe in setting goals, I believe in having benchmarks, I believe in having targets 1,000%, with or without professional help, with or without a marketing company behind you, because you have to have a way, you have to have some sort of barometer for your success. You've got to have a way that your staff is accountable, your team is accountable, and that you can measure if you're where you want to be when you say you want to be there. So I think every company should establish goals, and those should be done with the help of your advisors or your marketing plan or your business plan or whatever companies are using and have at their disposal to be able to use to set the framework for how they want their company to be. My best piece of advice that I give, and I live by it myself, is always ask questions. Never, ever, ever stand around someone that you know has knowledge that you want access to and don't ask a question. Ask, and they will respect you for asking, and they will respect you even more for listening and appreciating their answer.